say a few words. Then I would like to introduce my panelist speakers and then hand over to the biggest and most expert moderator, Dr. Ghosh. Dr. Thomasji, please say your
Thank you.
introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Asha Samant. I bring greetings to you from GOPIO International as its chairman, and a warm welcome on behalf of GOPIO Manhattan, which is organized this webinar today. Distinguished speakers, Dr. Arnab Ghosh, Dr. Lipi Roy, Dr. Shubhendu Sen, and Dr. Taruna Chakravarti. We have a wonderful panel this evening. And ladies and gentlemen, it is almost more than 1 year we are all homebound because of this pandemic. Since vaccination has started in December in the United States has done an extremely good job in getting a large number of its population vaccinated. GOPIO Manhattan has organized several webinars related to COVID and its effect, and this is the third of its series this year alone. And today we are discussing about alone but not lonely, living in the reality of new normal, and it's a very timely topic. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Arnab Ghosh, who is chairing this medical and health webinar, and I want to compliment our former Counsel General Sandeep Chakravarti, who put us in touch with Dr. Ghosh, and he has become a very big asset for our GOPIO chapter in organizing many very fruitful and informative health and medical seminars for the benefit of our community. And he is assisted by Dr. Asha Samant and Dr. Vimal Goyal. Just a few words about GOPIO International. Some of you may not know. It was started in 1989 in New York. And when we had 3,000 delegates, came from about 33 countries. And our first priority was to get our community in the mainstream politics of various countries with a large PIO NRI population, which we have accomplished somewhat. But GOPIO also does a lot of other things for benefit of the 32 million diaspora community. We were the first one to propose the dual nationality, which became overseas citizens of India card. Millions of people have that card now, and several other issues we take up. In fact, today there is a new notification which has come on OCI. If anybody is interested, I will give my email address. I can send you a PDF copy of that notification if you write in the chat group your email address. So GOPIO is spread in about 35 countries with over 100 chapters. GOPIO Manhattan is the newest, which is a very, very active chapter. As I mentioned, our former Counsel General Sandeep Chakravarti had a role in encouraging to start a chapter. Basically, we have a large number of people in Manhattan. Many of them are moving back when their children are taking their jobs in Manhattan. So after their work retirement, they are moving back to New York. And then there are a lot of young professionals who come from around the country and around the world. And we wanted to give them a forum. And in that regard, GOPIO Manhattan is doing extremely good job. It has provided a forum for all Indians living in Manhattan. And it has done some programs like providing a forum for political people, Indian origin people who are running for political offices, and various educative seminars. And we also do every month we sponsor a community feeding in Manhattan in Tompkins Square Park. And people volunteer as a sponsor of it. It's a very nominal amount, $250. If anybody wants to celebrate somebody's loved one's birthday or somebody's birth anniversary, you can contact us and contribute $250. You will be the sponsor for the month. So that is in the last Monday of every month. And also, after the pandemic is over, we are planning several programs, including a welcome dinner for all the new Indian students, graduate students who are coming to the various universities in New York. And we also are reaching out the Indian origin students in various colleges. So these are the programs in work. So very active group, and those who are not members who are in the New York area, we would like you to join GOPIO Manhattan. We are providing a wider platform for the whole Indians in New York area. I also want, before I go, I also wanted to recognize our president is Shivendra Sofat. Our vice president is, executive vice president is Professor Raj Vangapati, and our vice president is Dr. Bimal Goyal. They're all in the session today. And we have board member Sid Jain and secretary, co-secretary Bhavya Gupta, and of course Mr. Chitranjan Belvarier, who has done an extremely good job in especially conducting these various webinars and other celebrations in the last several months. I also wanted to recognize Beena Ramachandran from GOPIO, Connecticut, and from GOPIO International, we have Mr. Ram Gadvi, who is a vice president present here, as well as I already mentioned about Vensudha Acharya, who is our founding live member and also chair of the Council for Seniors. And she is the executive director of South Asian Council for Social Services. I also want to recognize Mr. Vijay Garg, who owns Indus TV, and he has done a fantastic job in streaming and making the YouTube video and make it available to the whole world. Well, I thank you and really appreciate your joining us. And I'm sure this will be a very fruitful session. Thank you and enjoy the session. Back to you, Dr. Samant.
Thank you so much, Thomas. That was a wonderful introduction about what GOPIO Manhattan chapter is doing it. Coming back and saying why we are so panicky. Suddenly there are so many kind of vaccines comes with as Johnson and Johnson come, people are becoming more panicky, listening to different kind of a concept of people have and people are concerned. I would like, without wasting any time, to introduce all those well-known specialists, you can say, who have a lot of good knowledge, as Dr. Ghosh has picked them. First speaker is, panel speaker is Dr. Lipi Roy, MD. Dr. Roy, I would like to read, even though it's in a summary, but it's in a very extensive biodata, you have it. She's an internal medicine physician, board certified in addiction medicine, as well as a sought after media medical commentator. Dr. Roy currently serves as a medical director at Housing Works, where she oversees medical services at COVID isolation and quarantine sites in New York City. Wonderful. We're looking forward to listen from Dr. Liquidai. Our second panel speaker is, even I think a few words is not enough for him. Let me say it, Dr. Sain, you are affiliated with Jersey Shore University Hackensack Meridian Health as vice chair, research, and a faculty as well. An award-winning and best-selling author of the book, Dr. Sain is a recipient of Nautilus Award, Men of the Distinction Award from New York State Senate, and Oscar Awards from American College of Physicians. God bless you. Wonderful. What a bio you have it. Dr. Taruna Chakravarti ji, you are related to one of our well-known CG, who we still adore and remember how many good things he did for us. Dr. Chakravarti is PhD. Once again, we want to say, we woke her up. She's sitting in India, but she gave her time because she's dedicated and committed to us. Okay, ma'am. You are PhD, you are an academic visiting professor at Hansraj College, New Delhi. I'm from Delhi, where she teaches diploma course in Spanish. What a man, Indian and then Spanish. Good. She's also a speaker and healer who loves to work with people of varied age groups and helps them to their hopeless and their joys for lives. Her mantra is the human spirit was meant to soar the skies in joyful abandon, free from fear, full of love and compassion. Last but not least, I cannot forget the man who has arranged everything, great Dr. Ghosh. Dr. Arnab Ghosh, you are an oncologist from Memorial Sloan Kettering, specializing in adult bone marrow transplantation and cell therapies. You're also a physician scientist and has a research interest focused on immunotherapies, where one uses the patient's immune system to treat various diseases. He has received various awards from several foundations, including the German Cancer Award, the American Association of Cancer Research, and Society for Immunotherapy of Cancer to Sport Research. What a wide CV, what a wide concept. Okay, without hesitating and without wasting, I just have to just tell the participant or the people who are listening, you have any question you have already sent. If you still want to do, just go on a participant and send it. We'll catch it up and we'll answer. Dr. Gonu, Dr. Ghosh, the stage is yours. Introduce your panelists and let us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very kind introduction to all of us. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the GOPIO series on talks on healthcare. Over the past months, we have had several talks on COVID-19, its vaccines, and focused on the scientific and medical knowledge that we have garnered to empower our community. However, in this conference, I want to focus on the human toll of COVID-19 and what we can do as a community to help each other. The pandemic undoubtedly has affected our health, our economy, but beyond this, the existence of an airborne disease amongst us which has been extending all across the globe, has led to restrictions on our ability to live our lives as social beings. And unsurprisingly, it has affected our society, our sanity, our psyche, and much more. So today we wanted to focus on these aspects by listening to people's stories. Participating with us today is an extraordinary panel of members from our community, and we are really proud to have you all with us. I would like to start off with Dr. Roy. Dr. Roy is a medical communicator. She has been a very effective communicator in several mediums in TV, in print media, and also in social media. And she is a specialist herself in internal medicine and in addiction, and also is highly involved in several community health schemes. So Dr. Roy, let's start off with you. Tell us, what has this past year been?
Well, good evening, and for some people like Dr. Chakravarthy, good morning. So thank you so much. I'm really honored to be speaking to all of you on a really, really important topic. As we all know, this COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of us, some in very unique ways and some in very universal ways. I think all of us can somehow relate to the sense of isolation, the sense of disruption to our normal everyday lives. I will say for me personally, I am no different. I'm somebody who likes to consider myself as somebody relatively social. I enjoy meeting with my family, my friends, and going out to activities and events. I'm lucky enough to be living in New York City, where there are so many activities for all types of personalities, whether it be going out for walks in the parks, museums, Broadway musical shows, you name it, and shopping. You name the activity. Exactly a year ago, April 2020, everything was shut down. I have photographs on my phone of me walking down the middle of Madison, Fifth Avenue, big, heavily trafficked streets, completely empty, a ghost town. And I took pictures of that moment because I thought, Gopi, this will never happen again. So it was a tough year for sure. And in fact, in the beginning of the year, I was actually collecting unemployment, believe it or not, because I was transitioning from full-time clinical medicine to part-time clinical medicine and more public speaking and media. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and that completely ended my at least the speaking industry was, I think, for the first hit, heavily hit. So, and then come March, I was invited by MSNBC to be one of their medical contributors. And then I started getting interviews for various different clinical jobs and positions. And so things have a way of working out, but it was certainly a tough go in the beginning.
Thanks so much for sharing that. In fact, I think this is something we can all relate, that life has changed enormously for all of us. And not just economically, but also the social aspect. Frankly, to think of New York as a ghost town, it's unimaginable. And for a city that we love so much and love to enjoy the various activities it offers, it has to be very, very difficult. I want to move on to another speaker that we have in our panel today, and that is Dr. Sen. Dr. Sen is a medical educator, an internal medicine specialist, and also he's an instructor in the art of healing using integrative approaches, and obviously a well-known author. So Dr. Sen, share with us, how has your experiences been from the last 1 year?
Well, I'll just take the time before I give my introductory remarks. I would like to thank the global organization of people of Indian origin for their remarkable work and for standing up to our Indian values, Indian culture, Indian accomplishments. I had crossed paths with GOPIO about a decade back when a couple of my contributions to American College of Physicians were highlighted by this remarkable organization. And I would also like to take time to thank you, Dr. Ghosh, for not only inviting me, but for setting up this excellent panel and for being who you are, and a very renowned oncologist, and for all your services, the world of good that you do to the world. And it's a pleasure interacting with you. In terms of the pandemic, I'll probably take a slightly different perspective. I'll say that, well, this is not the first time that it has happened to the world, be it a natural calamity or a bacteria or a war. We have faced this situation before where the world felt that it has smelled its end. And, almost like an apocalyptic kind of a foreboding that, there's going to be some changes in our destiny. And as Dr. Roy was mentioning, a complete break from our usual lifestyle, well-structured lifestyle that we have. There's an abrupt breakage. And when we got hit with the pandemic last year, we had the similar sinking feeling, that iciness, that emptiness. But there was also another thing that we have witnessed from history. Whenever we got hit with this global disaster, this near apocalyptic thing, it is humanity's tremendous potential to turn things around, to hurl defiance, to resurface themselves from the dust, to grow when their own growth is challenged. And we have seen that time and time again. So exactly April 20th, as Dr. Roy was mentioning, when everything got shut down from our New York perspective. And when we hit the road, myself, Dr. Ghosh, Dr. Roy, all of us frontline physicians on those empty highways and the same sinking iciness, uneasiness gripping the highways, I had all of these feelings. I had this feeling of impending doom, but I also had this feeling of hope. And hope coming from humanity's tremendous potential to turn things around. And for every root of destruction that we had since last year, there was always side by side a seed of hope that we can turn things around. For me, at a personal level, I just give one example and then, I'll pass it back to you. My hope came not from the scriptures. It did not come from famous utterances from famous men and women. It actually came from my patients, a good number of them. One of my patients was a 94-year-old, or I'll say a 94-year young patient. And he was admitted with this situation, and fever and hypoxia. And then he was diagnosed with COVID. So when I was getting inside his room, fully protected, and I was about to say, Mr. So-and-so, you've been diagnosed with it, I could not even start or finish. He turns around, he's barely whispering, and he's telling me, but before that, doc, are you doing okay? You have a wife? Is your wife okay? You got children? Is your children okay? And I'm looking at him. I could just master a half-throated yes. And I'm looking at this impossible strength of humanity to turn around from the very throat of death. And I feel very comfortable to belong to a world where to be good for the sake of being good, it does not need any overarching power or blessings. So for me, this is pandemic. This is a lot of emptiness, but this is also hope side by side.
Thank you. That was amazing, and in fact, I'm sure it touches all of us, especially the ones who work with patients all the time, and often recognizing that they are undergoing so much worse than we are, and definitely very, very moving story and anecdote that you had here. But yeah, talking about pandemics, this is not the first pandemic we had. Humanity, some of the most life-changing events of humanity has been born through pandemics. And not to forget we have had several pandemics since then, but the last big one, the Spanish flu we all talk about, from an Indian perspective, was incredibly damaging. Lots of Indians died from the influenza of the 1916 to 18. And one of the turning events in the point of Gandhiji, in fact, I recently came to hear, was the fact that his family members, his son and his daughter-in-law, was actually inflicted with the same disease. In fact, he himself was ill by some kind of a disease which had similar symptoms as that of influenza at that time. But at the end of that, he came out a lot more spiritual, and some of the more ardent beliefs of nonviolence stemmed from that spirituality. So things change, and people's perspectives change from these adversities. So certainly that helps. And next, I would like to move on to Dr. Chakravorty. Thank you so much for waking up so early and joining us, Dr. Chakravorty. So Dr. Chakravorty, you have you saw a remarkable transition of this vibrant city of New York from when you came in and from the time you left, and then you moved to India. But across this entire spectrum of countries, I'm sure you have seen similar scenes of desperation or hope. Yeah, you're mute.
First of all, I'd like to thank Gopi Manhattan, Dr. Ghosh, for inviting me to be on this panel with such esteemed people. I'm supremely impressed by the work that you all are doing. As far as, the transition from New York to New Delhi, was not as smooth as it would have been due to the pandemic, certainly, because we were restricted in so many ways. I had thought that when I come back to India, I will travel to places and all of that, and one has not been able to do that. But I would say the pandemic has had its fair share of blessings and tragedies as well. My daughters who finished high school in New York are now studying in the US, but because of the pandemic, they did the first semester with us at home, online. So I had them for an extra 6 to 7 months. That was a blessing. Otherwise, they would have just gone, and I would not have had this time with them. Tragedies, I lost my mother. I lost so many people that I knew. some due to COVID, some not related to COVID. But it has been a difficult year. And as a life coach, I realize how important it has become for everyone to begin to look inward rather than outward. As a life coach, I have counseled, worked with clients who have suffered depression, panic attacks, and lots of these issues which in some way have originated because of the situation that we are living in, a situation in which one is completely isolated from one's own friends. You're living in a virtual world. The virtual world can only do that much for you. So the people that I have worked with, like I said, they're mostly people who have suffered from depression, who are going through some very, very anxious moments in life. And together we have been able to navigate them to a place where they no longer need me. So now they ask for sessions only to refresh a little on what we have been doing. So apart from the counseling part as a life coach, what I have also worked with and introduced in my work is the importance and the techniques of meditation. And I say, don't believe what I say, experience it for yourself. And they themselves have realized, the brilliant part, the brilliant things that meditation brings into our lives. So I just like to say that, most of us know a lot of these things, but we forget and we don't practice. So it has happened with all the people that I have worked with, that it has brought, a heightened awareness, clarity of thought, and a more enlightened perspective on the world that we are living in. Also meditation, since you're going inward, since you're looking inward, you basically touch your own fountain of love and compassion, which is the true nature of what we are. So when one is able to do all of these things together with counseling, it has led to very good results. It has, and people have come out of the depression. People have navigated to a much happier place in their lives, and I'm very grateful for that I have been given the opportunity to work with people in this way. And working like this has given me an immense sense of joy, and has helped me to navigate also these very difficult times. It is said that when you do something for others without any gain, gain for yourself, without any, without thinking that if I do this is what I'm going to gain, the rewards are multifold. And I have been able to do that. I have been able to contribute, and I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And in fact, that is true. What pandemic seems to have kind of brought us back to some of the basics of how, simple things like wearing masks and socially distancing, respecting the distance. These are things that we don't always do for ourselves, but we also do for others, right? And looking inside and looking inwards, and trying to also realize that those little changes that we bring in similarly can affect the society for the good is actually an amazing realization. So all through the last 1 year, one of the most common slogans that we all hear is like, we are in this together. And we want to relate to others. But unfortunately, once socially isolated, as the pandemic has brought upon us, it's really difficult to relate to others, to feel each other, and feel the agony what others are going through. So what I want to also do this time was to provide a soapbox for everyone else to be able to speak and share their experiences over the last 1 year, and then use that so that the people, others who are there in this panel and others who would hear this would know that all of us are actually in this together, whether we can see them or not. So I wanted to bring out a few of the videos that many of the contributors were very generous to share with us so that we can learn from the experiences. First, I wanted to share this video from a physician. So perhaps Dr. Belvaria can play that video, and then we can discuss a little more on those experiences. Mr. Belvaria?
Yes, I'm going to play that. I don't know which one is coming. Okay.
Hello, this is Ritesh from London. I just wanted to say that, like many of us, COVID had affected me as well. I contracted COVID at work in December last year, but it wasn't so much about myself getting infected because that was very much manageable for me with the hospitals and other facilities that we have here. What was more difficult for me was maintaining and managing my parents' health back in India, and with the lockdown and also travel restrictions, not able to travel, that had impacted a lot of stress and anxiety on me. I had to go through counseling because I found myself very helpless, and with what I could actually do apart from probably offering monetary support, there was not much I could do. I lost my mom last month, and unfortunately I was not able to go attend her funeral. So these are some of the things which I think really has impacted me because of COVID, directly or indirectly. I do feel that if there was a better facility back home in India, whether that is care homes for senior citizens, professional qualified carers, then things would have been a lot more manageable.
Thank you, Ritesh, for sharing your story. I'm so sorry for your loss. But I think this is also a common theme for many of us, the feeling of helplessness, especially being away from parents. And this is something that I'm sure all of us immigrants can understand, of being able to be far from families, always concerned about their health and not being able to help them if they were to fall sick. Dr. Roy, perhaps I can start with you. Would you like to, what have you known about these kind of scenarios? Because I know you have worked with immigrants, you have worked with many communities who have been suffering from several mental health issues.
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. And also thank you for sharing that video. I thank that gentleman from England, I believe, who shared his story, his deeply personal story. I will tell you that, the human beings are social beings. They're social by nature. Even the most introverted among us need social connection to survive and thrive. A common saying in my field is that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And when I've had the honor of caring for so many patients, as you pointed out, Arnab, from all walks of life, from military veterans to people who are PhDs and lawyers, to people who are adolescents, people from all racial, ethnic backgrounds. But there's always universal themes amongst all of us that transcends borders, race, gender, ethnicity. And that is the need for connection, for love, for respect, And everyone at some point in their life experiences pain and trauma. And what I've noticed is that almost every patient of mine who's ever developed a substance use disorder, a drug alcohol addiction, mental illness, almost all of them had some form of pain and trauma, loss, tragedy. It could be unemployment, divorce. And of course, now, pandemic. During medical school, I evacuated from Hurricane Katrina. Any one of these events or all of them in succession can really be devastating to individuals. And in the case of the gentleman, the previous speaker, and the loved ones and relatives of over 560,000 men and women in this country, in the United States, who have lost their lives because of COVID, this pandemic has really been devastating. But I want to really highlight what Dr. Thuruna Chakraborty just said. There are tools within all of us that we can use to get by. Yes, the connections, we can utilize things like technology, like what we're doing right now, Zoom and Skype, just picking up your phone and talking to people. You may not be able to socialize in a big party, but you can connect in other ways. And even at home, when you're isolating at home, meditation is something I do every morning. Just 20 minutes of meditation, deep breathing, exercising, cooking, reading, doing puzzles, watching TV, comedy, movies. There are so many things that we can do that are healthy, not self-destructive, that can provide peace internally and then also externally with one another. So those are just some of the tools that I've developed and that I try to share with my patients and my friends and loved ones. Arnab.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Dr. Chakraborty, what would you, if Ritesh was to talk to you, what would be your suggestions on how to expand upon some of these tools that you are talking about?
I think the first thing I would do is empathize, with his loss, because it is a huge. The loss of a parent is like no other. But after that, move on to remind him that he is still breathing. That we forget to be grateful, to have gratitude for the things that we do have. And it is something that is so important. And gratitude is one of the finest emotions that we as human beings can experience, and being in a state of gratitude itself leads to such positivity. Apart from that, I would, instead of looking outward, everybody is looking out anyway. And that helps in a way to organize oneself a little better. But when we start looking inward, like Dr. Roy said, she meditates 20 minutes every day, and you can see, she's this vibrant, happy, social person and very strong. So meditation leads to that. It leads to a lot of clarity. It leads to an inner sense of peace. And all of that makes you look at things in a different way. You start looking at things from a point of, compassion for everybody else. And when we are able to give that love and compassion outside of us to other people who require it, and everybody requires it, believe me, everybody can do with a little bit of love and compassion at every moment in their lives. If we remember that we can give, we can be in tremendous pain, but the human spirit is such that we are still capable of giving love and compassion. And giving love and compassion out is something that just multiplies. The more you give, the more you have. You never get empty. So I would just say that, everybody has had, a lot of people, not everybody, has faced tragedies, has faced loss, and everybody has been affected in some way or the other by the pandemic. But that is all the more reason to be grateful for all the things that we do have. We are still breathing. We are not we don't require a ventilator. You know, we still have our 2-3 meals a day. We have a roof over our heads. We have a lot to be grateful for. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of reminder. That's all.
So gratitude, love. Even if you're not in touch, if you're not physically there, the thoughts, the positive thoughts, they definitely go a long way. Dr. Sen, what would Buddha do under such adversity?
Well, as a disclaimer, I would have to say that I'm not a specialist in holistic medicine. I've written a book on holistic medicine, which has been doing very well in the market. And I do mainstream medicine, and I try to incorporate holistic measures into my mainstream patient care. And I found wonderful results. And I found that these holistic measures can transition treatment into healing whenever there is a meet of the body and the mind. So it's all about inner strength. We are all talking about probably the same language in different words. You know, the day we took the conscious decision to come to this country, we knew that there's going to be a geographical challenge. I have an 87-year-old mother. She's in Calcutta. And every day of my life here, I think about her. And so we consciously took this. There is a cliche that we have, whoever has come here, that we are born in India and lost in America. But this is also an opportunity to seek our inner strength, which is limitless, which is infinite. To answer to your question, what would Buddha say? Buddha would actually say what my other panelists are saying, just to meditate. Because meditation is not just an inward journey, it's an inward contemplation. It's trying to find out who we are, which gets very smothered with our rush. You know, we desire all the time. You know, my mother used to say that, you know, since childhood, we are taught to follow a light. When I'm in school, I'm thinking of going to college. When I'm in college, I'm thinking of becoming the president of that college. When I'm the president of that college, I'm thinking of joining a job. When I'm joining a job, I'm thinking of promotion. There is a light, and we are constantly rushing after the light. We don't stop. We don't think about ourselves. We don't think about present. We don't think about when was the last time I wrote a love letter to myself, right? So we don't do that. We don't take the time to think about ourselves, to take a dive into ourselves, and the strength will come from there. I completely understand my doctor friend from England, and he's lost his beloved mother. I can see the tragedy. I can see, but you know, it's almost biblical when we say, you know, that God give me the courage to change things that I can, but give me the wisdom to accept things that I can't change. So there are certain things of destiny that we cannot change, and that's where the wisdom comes. That's where the inner strength comes, and we should all seek that inner strength.
Thank you. So really to get in touch with ourselves so that we can discover that limitless energy that lies within all of us, which will give us the strength to fight this pandemic and cruise across, go to the other side, essentially. It's a remarkable and very empowering thought. Thank you. Perhaps, Mr. Balvaria, we could pick up one more video, maybe the one which starts with number 1, because this was not actually the doctor video I want to show. This is, I think, I do not know what this gentleman does, but the one from the physician is another video. So we'll discuss that. Mr. Balvaria.
Yeah, trying to get that. Let's see. Not sure. It had some challenges. It's not playing.
Then we can go on to another one while you figure this out. Any other one will do.
Let's try this one.
Sure. Let's hear this. Are you, is it the downloaded files or?
These, let's see.
No, so we downloaded the file, perhaps use those. Or else I could try.
Based in Yakima, which is in central Washington, and we are located 2 hours east of Seattle. Back in March 2020, I first diagnosed a case of COVID-19, but I never expected cases would explode. But then we started having such a high number of cases. At one point, we were the highest along the West Coast. That's because we have a significant proportion of people who work in the orchards, who work in the warehouses, as well as the dairy farms. We have a large number of Mexican population. We also have Native Americans. We have significant number of elderly people in nursing homes as well as assisted living. So though we have had significant success with our inpatient population, we have also seen few fatalities. It is heartbreaking to see these naive, innocent people who come in with the hope that they'll get better, and they just take their last breaths right in front of you. For example, many of them, they live in joint families. They don't know about masks or social distancing. We have had grandparents, both grandmother, grandfather being infected, the kids being infected, as well as the grandkids being infected. Obesity is a huge risk factor, as well as lack of education. Back in April 2020, my husband, he became febrile, he was lethargic, I had to take him to the ER. Luckily, he recovered. My kids were very scared, and they were always worried about me, as I couldn't even take a day off. And after working 9 months straight, I became lethargic, hypoxic, as well as tachycardic around Thanksgiving, and had to be taken to the hospital. Luckily, I got monoclonal antibody, and then I was able to recover quite fast, but the exhaustion lasted for at least a month or so. Some patients have not been lucky. There was a pastor who was so grateful. He thanked us, but within 5 days he was intubated and he had to die. I'm happy, but with increased vaccination, we have seen significantly less number of cases, and I'm hoping this will continue. I've tried my bit to educate the community, but still there are so many people who think it's COVID-19 is a hoax. It's become more of a political and divisive issue. But I'm hopeful we won't have any cases in the near future if we continue with this vaccination. So far this month we have had very few cases. Only yesterday we had a young guy admitted. He has no comorbidities, and I'm hoping he will be discharged soon. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk to you guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing. I think a large number of doctors are actually Indians and immigrants. And what I've noticed consistently talking to them is a real sense of burnout. So on one hand, we have been facing this enormous number of patient loads. We have been feeling this helplessness of not knowing enough on how to help them. And on the other hand, we have also had to fight this public distrust on what we were doing, just because, we were fighting a battle that we didn't know enough about the enemy, and only recently we have been learning more about it. Perhaps I'll start with you, Dr. Sen, because you also are involved in a large residency program and a large educational program. So you perhaps mentor a large number of such doctors. You perhaps treat a large number of patients who have had COVID. Tell us a little more about your view from this and how we as physicians should have a sense of bonding over this.
Probably take the cue from one of the remarks that you just made. So I guess like you and like all other countless doctors, every time I took to the street to the highways and I'm driving to my hospital, there were two parallel thought process that we all went through. One was, our commitment to our profession, that we are going to take care of our patients over and above our vested interest. And the other one was this uncertainty, this fear, this anxiety, which was very personal. And it was staring at me because I did not know about the future of this disease, as you very correctly said, how I'm going to be affected with it, how my family is going to be affected with it. And I've got a family thousands of miles away in my country. So those two things were with us. And as you correctly pointed out, back in those days, which wasn't very many months back, we really did not know about the treatment pattern. Not that we are masters of it right now. There's new things are coming up constantly. But our treatment was, we were very gingerly seeing patients, almost intuitively. We had guidelines which were born and hacked in a week. So so the residents suffered because they were at a time when they wanted to be trained, but they were put into the front. And here they are with limited knowledge from their own attendings. They are seeing patients. They are fearing for their lives. They are fearing for their own security. And at the same time, they're putting up a tremendous effort to save lives. So it was contradictory to say the least. And this was a unique situation where life and death were walking hand in hand. For us, for you, for the residents. But we had multiple sessions. That's where the integrative department of our hospital played a major role. And it was not just about meditation, because it's hard to tell these boys and girls who are working, 24 hours to sit in the style of Buddha, lotus style, and to meditate. So we had to go through multiple counseling sessions with the residents where we had to assure them that they have to look after themselves first. They have to wear the right equipment first. We gave examples like when you are flying, and what do the air hostess tell us? When we have a problem and the oxygen mask drops, what's the first thing you do? You cover yourself first. Then you take care of the others. So we have to tell them, you got to be strong before you preach strength. You have to be confident before you preach confidence. You have to be happy internally before you preach happiness. All these at a time when death, like a whirlwind, was moving around us. So it was a challenge, to say the least. But this multiple sessions that we had with them, when we were actually one-on-one with them, it worked out with them. And slowly and steadily, they made their way. I would doff my hat to all the residents, because we most often we say, we are the frontliners. They were the frontliners. They were the frontline doctors, dashing into the emergency room, talking to the patients, doing what they have to do. And as I say, this is all a part of what I said in the beginning, humanity's tremendous potential to fight and not to give up. This inner strength was very much evident with my fellow colleagues. And this was the situation, I want to make it very clear, as we all know, if you're picking up a phone and if you're talking to someone, if you're telling him or her, wear the mask, you are the doctor. This is a crisis where everybody is a doctor. Everybody has the potential to give a hand and become a doctor. And I think we have done a great job.
Dr. Roy, do you share the same some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I want to reiterate everything that Dr. Shen just said. I have many friends that are residents in New York, and I was talking to several of them all throughout the pandemic, especially early on in New York. Because again, just to remind everyone, New York was the epicenter of the global COVID-19 crisis. New York, nobody else was getting more illness, hospitalizations, and deaths in the world than New York exactly 1 year ago. And I was talking to residents in various hospitals from Mount Sinai to Elmhurst, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, you name it. They were working such long hours, and they're in training as well. And remember, early on, back last March, April, we didn't quite have the same data that we do now as far as masks and PPE. So I remember hearing stories about people running codes. And as you can recall, And when somebody's in cardiac arrest, I mean, it's just almost kind of organized chaos, but there's kind of chaos, right? People not necessarily wearing masks, taking care of the most highly infectious patients. And so many of the medical staff, nurses, doctors, respiratory therapists, all got infected. And sadly, many doctors and frontline healthcare workers have died because of COVID. And just to point out that last video, I believe she was an ID doctor. Just a reminder that before COVID-19, burnout amongst clinicians and doctors and other healthcare workers was an epidemic before COVID-19. And now with the skyrocketing cases and the fact that sadly COVID-19 became so politicized, frontline healthcare workers just continued facing this ongoing burden of patients to their hospitals. And it just exacerbated what was already a pre-existing problem. I've said many times, there's nothing like a pandemic to expose the existing cracks in the US healthcare system, criminal justice, social justice, gender justice. But I look at this as an opportunity for all of us collectively to do better, to work together, to support one another, to lift each other up, and just get beyond this and not only survive, but thrive. I'm confident that's going to happen.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree more with that. Dr. Chakravarti, how does a physician reach their inner depths to find that strength to be able to overcome these adversities?
Well, I think the same way that everyone else does. I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion that's been going on for many years on mindful meditation. But more than that, I think it is just when we start concentrating on our breath, and there are so many techniques which are ancient scriptures, or all our rishis have left for us. One just has to read, or one just has to seek the right guidance, and one can use the different kinds of pranayams to get in touch with the inner soul, with the true soul, which is all of us. So it is basically the same thing for everyone, and that is the source of all the positivity that one needs, not only during times of pandemic, but in everyday living, just so that you can be more joyful, just so that others can receive the benefits of your being positive and joyful. And when one is joyful and positive, one affects the environment that one is living in. And I always say, love is the biggest game changer. In any relationship, in any problem that the world faces, that one faces, love is the biggest game changer.
Right, and true. And once you start focusing, trying to put all your love and energy in the patient in front of you, soon realize that a lot of this helplessness and burnout at least go back. They don't become the most important thing in front of you. The patient ends up being the most important thing in front of you. Well, thank you. So let's go on to another video. Number 3, perhaps, Mr. Belvarier.
Hello, I'm an R&D scientist and mom of 2 kids, a girl almost 9 and a boy.
Can you increase the volume?
For me, the pandemic year has been teaching me to rediscover myself and press the reset button. Empty weekends being filled up with ways to enjoy the indoors and the land around us almost.
And then can you increase the volume?
Playing tag, playing hide and seek. I mean, was there even time for this ever? Also, did I even have the patience for this before? Well, that is part of my self-discovery journey. My daughter has been exploring and nurturing interests that we may not actually have discovered otherwise. For instance, she's actually writing a book. As for my son, we were able to watch him grow and reach important milestones that would otherwise only have been daycare moments. And my husband is now able to work from home and participate in family activities in a way that is very fulfilling. On the one hand, we have all this, and then on the other, our missing social interactions, which are important for our sanity. Adults and kids alike need to laugh together, chat together, and mingle. For me, life in the new normal is about finding the balance of distancing for physical health and connecting for mental health. Thank you. Stay safe and healthy.
Well, that was beautiful. So it's a very optimistic video, I think, because uh, uh, what the speaker was sharing is how the family has started adapting to living in the new normal, learning newer talents, and how they have been able to support each other through this. Even the youngest of the of her offspring seems to have done that. So let's start with Dr. Chakravarti. This is an optimistic video. I think this is kind of like how our, as families, we have been supporting each other, right? You're mute again.
Sorry about that. Yes, certainly so many ways in which one can support each other. Being a mother of two young ladies, teenagers, they're 19 now, and they were 18 when the pandemic started. So I remember we did so many things together as a family. We started doing yoga together, all four of us, because Sandeep couldn't go to work as well. You know, I was working from home anyway. So we all started doing yoga together. We started cooking together. We started doing all these things together, which nourished, we nourished one another by doing these activities together. And which is why I say the pandemic has had its fair share of blessings as well. And for those of us who have been able to experience that, one is utterly grateful. And but I'd just like to say that it has not been easy for the youngsters. It has not been easy for the teenagers, because teenagers don't want to be shut at home with their parents. They want to be out there. They want to be with their own age group. Which is why in the second semester, when colleges reopened and were welcoming students, we sent the girls back. We said, go and find your own age group, your peers, experience what you're supposed to experience. And even for teenagers, I think it has been very, very difficult for people who are 13, 14 years old, because there's that whole hormonal surge that is happening in the body. They're trying to find themselves, and then the pandemic hits and you can't even socialize with your friends. Online socializing has a lot of limitations. There's a lot of physical cues that one misses online. So having worked with teenagers also in this very difficult time, it has been very, very challenging, and one has had to be even more careful, in what one says with them, because they're anyway in a highly charged emotional state.
That's right.
But having said that, things have been good, because there's more positivity than negativity everywhere, if it is just channeled in the right direction.
So, Dr. Rai, so she brought up an important issue, right? So as families, we can always get together and support each other. But there are several people who are stranded away from their families, or they're singles. How do you support them? What kind of issues have you seen among those populations?
Yeah, so that's, that's, the pandemic has exacerbated that. It's increased those cracks, those gaps. It's worsened those gaps, and unfortunately, this it's heartbreaking. It's that it's public health induced measures that have created this isolation. So I'm so conflicted, right? As an internist and a public health advocate, I know what the evidence shows as far as isolation, but at the same time, I also, as an addiction medicine doctor, I know the importance of connection. So again, it's like what I said before, utilizing technology. I must say, I don't know if the stock price of Zoom has just skyrocketed, but utilizing technology, taking advantage of this time where you are able to maybe spend a bit more time not necessarily at work, but doing things that you could maybe otherwise did not have the time to before. Again, I know that especially amongst the Indian community, myself, my own family, my mother and father, brother are in Toronto, Canada. I was able to see them briefly last year because I'm a Canadian citizen, but I quarantined when I was there, but I'm lucky because I was able to work remotely. So not everyone always has those opportunities. So take advantage of technology. I also just want to add that in terms of our own mental health and well-being, it's important to just sometimes turn off the news. We're always getting constant influx on our phones, on our laptops, on the radio, on television. 24-hour coverage of news is actually not healthy. So take breaks from doing that. Take break from doing something and doing something else, exercising, relaxing, going for a walk. But just do what you need to do to foster your own self-care and nurture those relationships with other people long distance, again, using technology the best you can, or going for walks if you're in the same area, distance and masked, and then get vaccinated.
Dr. Roy, I have to commend you on your honesty for a person who contributes to MSNBC News and NBC News to say to stay away from the news. I will take that. So Dr. Sen, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think, we say that a family that dines together lives together. So I was just thinking before this pandemic, when was the last time we actually dined together? Myself being a physician, I had crazy hours. I'll call up my wife and I'll say I'll be there by 9 p.m., but I will be there at close to midnight. But this was an opportunity for us to dine together and to appreciate the food, to look at each other, to listen to the stories of the kids. And also, as so very well said in the video, a lot of good things was channelized. We need to channelize. Whenever we get hit, we are pushed to the corner. This is an opportunity for us to take the other path. And there are many paths, including the path that my previous speaker was saying, to walk. Simple walking gives so much amount of endorphins that's liberated. It's a mood elevator. And then we can always create hobbies. So that's the good side of it. But there is the other side, and I'll take a step away to mention this because at the end of the day, I'm a physician, where we have been receiving news of depression, of not just Indian origin, but of everyone in the house, of teenagers. And teenagers, they have a different way of expressing their emotional conflicts. They perhaps don't even know that they are depressed. One aspect is they are not, and they are bouncing off the walls. They really want to go out. And the other aspect is that they go within themselves. They are bottled up. At an age when they're at the threshold of everything that is beautiful, they're supposed to be out there in the open. They are supposed to be, brushing shoulders with their colleagues. They can't. So we are adults. We have our ways. We know our ways. We have seen the world. I can pick up a book and read to beguile the tedious hours. But for the kid, it's hard. And we don't usually associate depression with teenagers. And they don't flaunt the way a depression would flaunt. Like they don't cry, they don't tear their hair, they're not driving a midnight river in their eyes. So what are the things that you look for? And some of the things that you look for are if they're not talking enough, if they're closing the doors, if they try to be by themselves, if they're dropping the grades, if they're not sleeping enough, if they're not eating enough. So those are the sensitive, small little hushed hints, as I say, that we should all as parents be looking for, because they are going through an emotional upheaval, but except that they are not manifested. They're very subtle. They're beneath the skin. And there is a hotline. There is hope and help side by side. And I'll tell to the audience in general that, at least in this country, there's something known as a national hotline. There is a line called 1-800-273-TALK, TALK. Just pick up the phone. That's for depression. That's for suicidal ideation. That's for even for child abuse, for veterans who are in crisis. We got a number here. So call that number, and there will be someone who's talking to, because in a lot of cases, they are not expressed, they're not published. They're like deep down, and we struggle, especially for the teenagers, they struggle. But there is hope, there is help. And I wanted to share that with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very important. And I know we are reaching the 1 hour margin. Can I indulge in one more video? Is that okay? If everyone says it's all right, perhaps I have to take Dr. Abraham's permission as well. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Fine.
All right. Thank you. So we'll do one last video, and then we can take it from there. Can we play the number 4?
Hi, I'm Vikram, and this is Priya, my wife, and we are from Seattle. This COVID has been crazy, and we have been quarantining since 2020 March. It's been an unusual transition when we used to go to office every day, and then we started now not go to office and then sit at home in front of a computer and work. We used to work for a very long time, for almost 10 to 12 hours per day without breaks, which was crazy and caused a lot of anxiety for us. And there was news cycles also going on with people not adhering to things. That was also creating more anxiety for us. Ben?
I think it took us up to August of 2020 when we actually decided to kick ourselves out of the rut and set ourselves some really clear work boundaries and work environment, which was different from the rest of the house. That helped us get a little bit more sane in just balancing work and life. We also started a cooking project where we decided to cook a thali from each Indian state every weekend. Just something that we would do as a family, and started a blog about it, Good Food or Hum. That also helped us to stay a little sane and get ourselves away from work.
Yeah, it's been interesting also with our daughter who's 10 years old, and she has been a trooper. Being an outgoing kid, she was able to change her habits and stay at home and be in a completely virtual setting for class was very interesting to see. We gave her a phone that kind of helped us. We also have had some issues with what we have seen issues with our friends, was that one of our friends had to go through a lung transplant to actually get over COVID. So that was a rude awakening for us, and that's why we have been making sure we follow all the rules, and not change any of our habits just to be close with friends or anything like that. But I see there is hope here. Like we are seeing vaccinations coming up right now, and we have actually booked our vaccine, and we'll hope to get to the new normal. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And when I thought of this program, it was a very vague idea, and I really appreciate all the three of you for actually joining in this real journey to find out how everyone else is doing, and kind of be a support group for all our community to understand how to be in this together and how to be able to overcome in this together, and to maintain that optimism that this gentleman was also talking about. Perhaps since we are kind of coming to the close, I'll start with you, Dr. Roy. Tell us your takeaway from this, and tell us what you have learned over the last 1 year that you want to share with us.
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. I think I've learned a lot. I've learned to really be grateful for what I have. As upsetting and heartbreaking and infuriating as events have been, certainly the politicization of this last year, and seeing so much unnecessary pain and trauma and suffering, I remind myself, I ask myself, all right, Lip, can your life be worse? And the answer is almost always yes. So I'm grateful for having a roof over my head, having an education, a job, wonderful family and loved ones and supportive people in my life. And that inspires me to do even more, to give back and help in any way that I can. And a reminder that this pandemic is disproportionately impacting certain people. It's impacting women more than men. Remember, globally, whenever there's a crisis, especially a pandemic, what happens? Young girls are yanked out of school and into the workforce, child marriage, things like that. I have to remind myself that this is a global problem, and I just try to see what I can do to help make life a little bit better within my own community, but also the global community. And I'm grateful to GOPIO for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Dr. Chakravarti, tell us what has been your positive take the last 1 year?
Well, among the many positive takes, I think is just that that everybody can be happy. Everybody can be in a state of happiness. It is a choice. It is a choice, and you can smile through the tears. You just have to be aware. Now, I talk about meditation, but meditation is not the only way for happiness. You know, there are other practical things like this wonderful couple we just saw, creative ways in which you can bond together as a family and create good, happy memories, So there are different ways to happiness, different ways to maintain an upbeat mood. If someone likes dancing, put on the music and just dance. If you like running, go for a run, but be conscious. Be conscious of what it is that makes you happy. Be conscious of the things that uplift your mood and do those things. Don't procrastinate, do those things, get those endorphins moving, in your body, charging. And once you're in that mood, you will affect everybody else around you. When you are upbeat, your surroundings also become upbeat, it is a positive multiplying effect. So not everybody is ready for meditation. Start with these things. Start with the positive things that start with doing things that make you positive, that make you happy and joyful. This is what I say, that being happy is a conscious decision, is a conscious choice that we have to make. And we all have to be aware that it is in our hands, that we can make that decision. Nobody else can make that decision for us. I can go to the rooftop shouting, meditate, 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 and it really does make a difference if it doesn't resonate with someone, So, yes, just be conscious that you have the decision. It's in your hands entirely to be happy. The Dalai Lama has also said this. It is a conscious choice.
Yeah, happiness can be a choice, and that's beautifully said. Dr. Sen, and I know I have perhaps given you both a little a difficult job, because what we have been talking about today is not really evidence-based medicine to that extent, but it is really coming from the heart, because a lot of it is through personal experiences, but I know that this helps our community. So Dr. Sen, please tell us one positive take from last year that we can use.
Keep it just within a line or two. It's very hard. I was thinking and I was listening. It's very hard to draw a moral justification from a situation which is taking away millions of lives. But I was thinking that if the basic fundamental traits of human beings, like friendship, fellowship, taking care of oneself and others, honesty, if those fundamental traits are entertained even when the stage is on fire, we have every reason to be optimistic. Someone said that the greatest opium on earth is religion. But someone else also said that the greatest opium on earth is actually optimism, is actually hope. So these fundamental traits of, taking care of each other, friendship, fellowship, these are the makings of humanity. These are the very essence of humanity. And they are the very harbingers of hope. And I would like to end by holding on to these qualities of humanity and hope.
Thank you. Let me share my biggest positive from last year, and that has been how amazing science has been. How my belief that even if there were limitations of society, of political will, of many other way human beings approach a calamity, but science has stood straight forward and actually really has given us some of the most amazing hopes that we can overcome. And every time I host one of these sessions, I always hope that, okay, we have a vaccine, we have answer. Maybe this will be the last of the COVID sessions that we host on GOPIO. And we can still hope on that. And on that note, I want to thank all the three of you for coming today, sparing your time. This was really a very, I have enjoyed this session a lot, and I have gained a lot. Thank you so much. Back to you, Dr. Abraham or Dr. Samant.
Ashaji? Ashaji? Yeah, Ashaji, we can't hear you. You have to unmute.
I am sorry. I said it is such a grateful learning lessons all of you have given. It's wonderful. I think I will request Dr. Vimal Goyal if she can say a few words to thank you everybody from my half. Thank you so much. Grateful, enjoyed, wonderful presentation. Dr. Goyal, please.
And Dr. Goyal, I'm sorry, before that, I must apologize. I saw there were a number of questions that kept popping up all through this, but
you can go over that.
We kept the focus on these videos because I'm sure everyone else would be able to relate to some of these.
Okay, so I can repeat, the questions which could not be answered. There is an online number we have sent it, which will directly go to Dr. Ghosh, and they will be definitely answered for you. The time was short. We could not satisfy that, but it is on us. The question will be answered. Thank you for sending question. Thanks, Dr. Ghosh.
Right.
Dr. Goyal.
All right. Good evening, everyone. As you know, my name is Vimal Goyal. I'm VP of this GOPIO Manhattan chapter. And thanks for attending this unique program arranged by our team, Dr. Asha Saman and Dr. Ghosh. And I appreciate Dr. Shivendu Sen's expertise as an author and a researcher. And also Dr. Tarna Chakravarti. She's as everybody has mentioned, old friend of New York. And I'm very especially impressed by that she is teaching Spanish in Delhi Hanskar College. Being in New York here, I'm also learning Spanish for a few years because there are so many people here who speak Spanish. So it's quite impressive. And appreciate your idea of meditation as well as love and compassion. As a motivational speaker, we enjoyed that. Dr. Lippy Roy, I know her for the last 10 years. I met her at the American Association of Indian Physicians when she was a resident and a student. And I'm really proud of her that she has become so successful at a young age. And of course, she has given her expertise in COVID isolation as well as a quarantine sites in New York City. We had a very good attendance and appreciated the videos, people who sent those. And it will be a miss if I don't recognize Chitranjan ji for his digital expertise and Vijay Garg from Indus TV. Now, without much ado, I would ask Professor Raj Shekhar Rangapati to conclude the session.
Good evening once again. This is Raj Shekhar Rangapati. I'm the Vice President for GOPIO Manhattan. Thank you very much for all the speakers. It's a really great honor to have you today. Once again, it's wonderful to see you all. And we learned a lot. Definitely one point actually I wanted to share with you also. Just I won't take much time, but I've been in the education for the last 37 years. I'm a professor here in New York in the SUNY and in the Fashion Institute of Technology. So during the pandemic time, there's a lot of panic in the student body here in the US also, and in back home in India also. So what I did actually, as frontliners, you have done so wonderful job on saving the lives. In the academic side, I engaged the teachers remotely from here, particularly in government schools in India. So far I could able to engage and educate them more than 1,000 teachers in the technology and how to teach online classes, how to actually create online tests, self-grading tests, sending to the kids through WhatsApp, and they automatically graded also. So all these technologies I could able to share and I could able to educate. I'm happy at least my time benefited the academic side back home in India also. Thank you once again, everybody. It's wonderful to see Dr. Chakravarti, because please say namaste from my side. Namaste once again, and Arnavji and Dr. Roy, Dr. Sain, and everybody. And thank you very much once again. And we conclude. And also we are going to have more sessions on different areas, education and even some other areas. Please stay tuned once again. Thank you very much once again all.
Thank you, Professor Raj. Shivinderji, would you like to say a few words before, even though time is running short, I think you should say a few words too. Shivinderji, unmute.
Can you unmute?
Yeah, it was so wonderful to hearing all the panelists and focus on holistic approach and this meditation thing and being positive. That's the key. I believe we should all keep on following that. So thank you all for joining, and we encourage you to stay in touch with us for any questions, anything which we can help as GOPIO Manhattan over here to anybody in the community. And we will keep you informed for our next program. And we'll encourage anyone you know who wants to join. Dr. Lipiroy, we would definitely like you to join GOPIO Manhattan because you are living over here, so you should join. And others also, if you are willing to join, it doesn't need that you have to live in Manhattan. Dr. Sain, you can always join. Even though you are in New Jersey, you can always join. So everybody is welcome, and we encourage you to spread the word, and so that more people will know and more people can associate with us. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Enjoy. Namaskar.
Thank you so much.
Ashaji, before everybody go, I just want to recognize some of our some of the people whom we did not recognize from GOPIO Manhattan as well as from GOPIO International and other community leaders. Our co-secretary is Dr. Lisa George. We have our GOPIO Connecticut, GOPIO Manhattan board member Jesse Ubi, and our treasurer Bridge Agarwal, and then our board member Malini Shah. Then from GOPIO International, we have Nami Kaur, chair of our media council, and our associate secretary Jay Modi. And we have GOPIO Connecticut president Ashok Nichani. And then from American Society of Engineers of India, we have two board members, Muthu Sivananthan and Vatsala Upadhyaya. And I also want to recognize Vin Gopal from Gopal Vin Goyal from GOPIO, New York, and Mr. Suresh Sharma, President of Milan Cultural Association, Hartford. So with this, we end this program. I look forward to our future program. And as I mentioned earlier, if anybody wants the notification of Government of India on OCA card, please send me your email. You can type it to me or send it to me. I put my email address there. We will mail it to you. As Shivender, our president, said, please do join and tell others in the New York area, especially Manhattan, to join hands, because there are a lot of things we can do together. Not only helping the community, but also serving the larger society. As I said, we do a community feeding every Monday, which was started in December, and it's going extremely well at the Tompkins Square Park. We bring vegetarian food, and if somebody wants to come and volunteer, there's no problem. You are welcome, but if you can't come, there are enough volunteers available. So that's a service we are doing locally. So please do join and come forward, and one can also become a sponsor by a nominal amount of $250 a month. Thank you all, and with this we end the program. Good night and good morning.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Chitranjan, you can stop the recording.
Yes, I'll do that.
Dr. Muhammad, thank you for joining. I saw your, now you can stop recording.